Hello, fellow Auraxians. How we all doing today? This video marks the first in a 5-part series on advanced play for each class. Today we are going to cover the Infiltrator. To start, I'm going to walk you through the loadouts I keep on hand, and then we're going to walk through some Infiltrator gameplay, so I can point out things you have to think about while you're an Infiltrator, and talk about the situations where they are the most effective. We're going to get into my loadout in just a minute, but I want to point out the weapons that I have equipped are not considered the best weapons or my favorite weapons. I like to complete directives, so I use a very wide arsenal. But every weapon in the game can be effective if used properly. My first loadout is my long-range bolt-action sniper rifle. I swap out scopes based on the range I'm going to be engaging at. And remember, equipping no scope leaves you with a default 6x magnification scope, which is the one I use most often. For recon, after the motion spotter was nerfed, I switched over to the dart gun. I like that it leaves less of a trace of where I've been. Hunter cloaking provides a lot of uptime with quick recharge. Since I don't expect to engage anyone up close, I like the run speed of adrenaline pump. It's easy to run out of ammo when you find a good sniping nest, so I run ammo printer. And the hold breath duration that comes along with target focus is great for long range snipers. Okay, my second loadout is for medium range engagements, where I always have some sort of scout rifle equipped. The NSX Tomo has been my favorite weapon in this slot so far. For pistols, I recommend using the default if you want something silenced, otherwise get the Commissioner. My ability suit, grenade, and utility slots don't change, but I do find I get a little closer to the enemy with this loadout, so I use Deep Operative for some extra stealth and Cat-like for some extra mobility. My next loadout is my submachine gun loadout. Ironically, I don't have a submachine gun equipped right now, but that's only because I've Auraxiumed every one I own. And the Trap M1 can achieve very similar play. I switched to the nano armor cloaking for this loadout. It passively adds 100 health to your Infiltrator, which I don't really care about. The feature I really like is it reduces small arms fire damage by 35% while you're cloaked. This allows you to pop up in a group of 3 or 4 targets, get a kill, and escape while you're under fire. Cat-like assists in that escape, allowing you to get over obstacles where they can't follow. And I find Deep Operative makes it harder for enemies to track me while I'm scrambling for cover. And my final loadout is my Stalker Cloak loadout. This loadout is all about leaving no radar signature. I use a suppressor on whatever pistol I'm using. My favorite one so far has been the Repeater, the default pistol, closely followed by the T4 amp. The dart gun is a great way to get intel while not putting on display where you've been. I stick with the speed from adrenaline pump, because you should not be engaging targets head-to-head where nano-weave armor matters. This loadout is all about sneaking up on someone and unloading on them before they even know you're there. For implants, I like the ammo printer because pistols do not have a big ammo pool. I use the sensor shield implant to further reduce the chance of leaving a radar signature. And for this loadout, I add in the Ripper, which is a one-hit kill knife. If all else fails and your pistol runs out of ammo, just running around with one-hit kill knife can do a lot of damage. So let's talk about what the Infiltrator is, how that class works. The Infiltrator is a master of approaching the fights from angles the enemy doesn't expect. To play this class correctly, you have to be steady and patient, and then mix in short bursts of activity. Boom, you pop out, engage, kill your targets, and then you're right back to the shadows. You have to make sure you don't linger in the same place. Even if you're keeping yourself hidden or invisible, the enemy is going to know you're there and they're going to hunt you down. Keep changing your position, changing your vector so they don't know where you're coming from next. You use your periods of engagement to recharge your cloak, and you use the periods while you're cloaked to run out the 6-second timer until your shields can start recharging again. If you start building this class out like your heavy assault with the nano-weave armor, the assimilate for your shields, the battle hardened, you're missing the point of how this class is really supposed to operate. While you can make them nearly as durable as every other class, you might as well just go play heavy assault if you're going to do that. Infiltrators really shine when battles stagnate. The lines sort of get set and people get comfortable on either side. The Infiltrator's job is to go in and upset that balance. Go find those engineers that are sitting there and keeping that Sunderer going indefinitely. All of a sudden the enemy can't immediately push through to where the front line is. Their safety net near the Sunderer is destroyed. They have to stop running up to that entrenched front line and hunt around for this threat that's taking them out where they thought they were safe. And that's going to give your allies time to nudge that front line closer and closer to that base or to that point. So we've sort of gone over the theory of infiltrators. Now let's pose a question that I think some people that play Infiltrator are a little bit fuzzy on. Are infiltrators invisible? No, you are never perfectly invisible as an infiltrator. When you are crouched and immobile, that's the only time you should sort of consider yourself invisible. And it is very important you do not start sweating when your cloak's about to run out. If you jump out too soon, that heavy's going to get his shields up and he's going to take you down. You need to begin engagements on your term. If someone gets the drop on you, you cannot hope to just fire back and outshoot them. You need to stop, maintain your composure, get behind cover, reset the engagement, and start dictating who fires first again. Now here's a guy that thought he was invisible. And you guys may run into this situation as well when you're playing Infiltrator. You're cloaked, you're in the middle of an open space, and somehow a guy 20 meters away picks you out and nails you. How was I able to track him down? First, he wasn't quite in deep cloak yet because he hadn't been immobile long enough. And just by dumb luck for me, unlucky for him, a friendly ran behind him, whose image was slightly obscured by his cloak, and I was able to pinpoint his location. The Infiltrator's cloak is so nuanced in this game. You have to be very attentive to how you move when you're trying to stay invisible, or what's moving around you when you're trying to hunt an Infiltrator down. Now, Infiltrators aren't all stealth, hide in the shadows. Sometimes you just gotta go and make some noise. That's when you go, you hack a Sunderer out, you ram it into a few enemies, you just try to add confusion and chaos to what was once a very linear battle. You'll notice in my engagements here, I've positioned myself where the enemy thinks they're running to cover. They're usually looking for fire from a different angle, or they're engaging targets where they think the front line is. Now we've completely turned their orientation upside down. They're either going to drop because they never figured out where you were, or they're going to drop because they start trying to track you down and your friendlies take advantage of that. And you'll notice you can hide pretty well in plain sight. Just make sure when you crouch and drop down to reload, it's not at the same angle you were firing from. Some other areas I really like to use the Infiltrator is whenever I'm trying to initiate a fight at a base. Get your Sunderer set in position. I'm already looking at the minimap and seeing that there's a motion spotter in there. Going Infiltrator is going to allow me to get some recon on the building, see if there's anyone moving around or possibly sniping from the roof. And then I'm also going to be able to go clear that motion spotter without exposing myself to the expected proximity mines. The mines are down, the enemy no longer has intel on me, and there's no movement on friendly radar. I'm in a good position to start a point hold. I really like running cat-like on Infiltrators because it opens up a lot more angles of attack. This guy's got me pinned down. I can't turn that corner without him getting me. So how else can I make it into that fight? He thinks he's got his angle covered, and all of a sudden I'm engaging him from behind. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to cover wielded knives in depth in this video. I am going to provide a few links up on the right side of your screen in the cards to some Ripper footage. So go check that out if you want some ideas on how to play melee Infiltrator. I do want to spend a quick moment on scout rifles. This is an area I am admittedly very weak in. Scout rifles find a nice niche between the Infiltrator's long-range loadout with the bolt-action snipers and their close-range SMG loadouts. But while SMGs are a little more forgiving, you really have to land your headshots with scout rifles to make them effective. So I do recommend getting your aim down a bit before you try to get into these weapons. And while I do put silencers on my SMGs or my pistols for a lot of my loadouts, I avoid silencers on my bolt-action sniper rifles or my scout rifles. The reduced muzzle velocity from a suppressor translates into a lot of bullet drop and makes it much harder to use these weapons. And a lot of the time you're engaging from distances far enough away where it's okay if you have a little bit of a signature on the minimap. On top of reducing your muzzle velocity, they also have an extremely adverse effect on your maximum damage range. That is, your damage fall off happens a lot sooner when you have a suppressor on your weapon. Only run them if you really need to be stealthy and you plan on engaging targets at a very close range. And don't forget, if you start seeing flashlights come out, that means they're onto you. Since I do have a suppressor equipped and I'm using an SMG, This guy with a flashlight is at about the maximum range I would even consider firing at with this type of loadout. There is an annoying guy with a scout rifle across the road behind me, but you'll notice I don't even bother looking at him and just try to dodge him. The only targets I can functionally engage are within 10 to 15 meters. At this point, too many people know I'm here, it's time to bug out. There are two primary forms of bolt-action rifle play. The first is get a Valkyrie, fly to the top of a tower base or some out-of-the-way spot, and fire down from a hard-to-reach sniper's nest. Focus on picking stationary targets. You can also use bolt actions much like you would a scout rifle, a more aggressive version that requires very quick reaction times. You can't use these sniper rifles like the hit-scan weapons in most games. The extra dots surrounding the center of your reticle really are functional here. You have to be able to effectively lead your moving targets. And you have to be extremely prepared to pull out your pistol whenever targets start getting too close to you. And finally, an infiltrator is nothing without his steed. That is a flash with the Wraith cloaking module equipped. Whether it's for getting to the back lines or just running a bunch of people over, it's great for adding that extra level of menace to your infiltrator play. It is certainly a difficult platform to master, and I highly recommend a crosshair overlay in order to use the weapons. But even without them, you can still just run things over. But keep in mind, when you're trying to run people over, you have to lead your target. You have to run them over on their screen, not on your screen. Okay folks, I hope I've left you with a lot of new ideas of how you can play the Infiltrator class. And just bear in mind, I'm barely scratching the surface. There are so many other loadouts that can be extremely effective. Use the knowledge and Infiltrator theory you've gained here as a jumping off point, and create your own unique armor, ability, implant, and weapon combinations. Okay, fellow Auraxians, that's where I'm going to leave you for today. Please make sure anyone you know that would benefit from these videos is subscribed, and I will see you planetside.